This is MBTI Exposed, working with MBTI Rationals once again, and this is part 2 of the 4 Sides of the Mind introduction. Let's get right down into it. This is all your cognitive functions that you have within your whole psyche. Now, you may be thinking, that's it? There's only 8 cognitive functions? Yes, there's only 8. And you may be thinking, why is it so hard for people to explain this? Well, because they're not taking the time to explain it. Let's go over here now. We said that the inferior function is the insecurity function. And I constantly say, if you want to thrive and break through, you need to develop your inferior function. Because the inferior function is the gateway. Think about a gate, opening and closing. It is literally the gate into the subconscious. And the subconscious is where happiness is. So this is the same cognitive stack as this. The only difference is it's turned upside down. It's led by what's insecure. Now, you may be thinking, oh, does that mean the hero is the insecurity now? No, it does not mean that at all. The hero will always stay the hero, and it can be easily accessible at all times. Talk about the inferior and how it is the most important function in the conscious mind, which means above the light here, right? We clearly have the aware functions in the blue and the non-aware functions in the red. So now let's talk about MBTI and the types. So if you were to take an ISTJ, right? An ISTJ has introverted sensing hero, it has TE parent, so they're very good at gathering information, introverted feeling child, they want their morals and their values to be looked highly upon with their TE parent. These two work together. And then they have any inferior. So they're insecure of what other people want and not being wanted themselves. But what happens is that ISTJ, when they get to combat and take on that insecurity of not being wanted and that fear of what other people want, they become an ENFP. They become the exact opposite of what their ego is. But they're still in their conscious stacks. Say you're any type, right? The ISTJ, and just know that any type actually becomes their opposite MBTI type. And that's why the MBTI system is rigged as a whole, because it has nothing to do with cognitive functions, and cognitive functions are the amino acids to the psyche. Okay, moving on to the superego. This is fun. This is going to be really, really fun. And the superego only comes out, like we discussed, when this inferior function has been threatened by something. Let's take, this is going to be fun. Let's take an INFP, for example. Let's say this INFP, with their extroverted thinking, is trying to get people together within a group. It doesn't happen, but it does. And what happens is, let's say there is an ENTP there, and the ENTP has TI parent. And like we said, extroverted thinking is looking to consume introverted thinking. And so what happens is, this ENTP sees that this INFP has a underdeveloped extroverted thinking, inferior. And this ENTP says, basically, screw you, extroverted thinking, inferior. You aren't smart enough to talk to me. I'm not going to listen to you. And obviously that hurts. That hurts the INFP, especially because FI hero and then extroverted thinking inferior. And so what happens, since we know that when that INFP is trying to be that ESTJ anima, what happens is the inferior orbits with what? The demon. The inferior orbits with what? The demon. It orbits all together. What happens is the ISTP demon within the INFP comes out. And what happens is they get ragey. They'll get ragey. They'll be very concrete and logical about things. But the rage of the INFP is all about righteousness. It's like, well, you hurt my FI hero, right? And then you shut down my T inferior, and automatically the TI demon comes out, and they become that feisty, calculated, willful ISTP. And same is true for ENFPs, actually, with the ESTP superego coming out too. So it's not that hard to figure out what are the four sides of your mind. Like I said, we're gonna go over this again and again and again so that we can all understand. The hero is all about humility. It's all about being humble. Let's go back to that ISTP we talked about. ISTPs, they have introverted thinking hero. Yes, they are smart people, but they're not the smartest people who have walked the earth. TI needs to be humble. Their TI needs to be humble. And when they're humble, there's going to be a lot less problems within them. If they could admit that they're smart people, but they're not the smartest people, well, that's humility. The next function is the parent. And the parent, we talked about it, is all about responsibility, being responsible for the ego. Don't know if you guys can see it, but responsibility. It's what the parent is all about. As we said, the child is all about divinity. Here's a really good example from King Warrior Magician Lover by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette. He sits at the center of the world playing his instrument and singing a song that brings all the animals to the forest to him. They are drawn by this song, prey and predator. They come together around the orifice in perfect harmony. Their difference is solved, and all the opposites brought together in a world transcending order. That is the power of the child function. It's so divine, the world just kind of shapes around it. Moving on to the inferior. Like I said, the inferior is all about the insecurity of the individual. So, what does it take to bring down an insecurity in an individual? The answer, it's simple. Courage. To always do the right thing, and the thing that you think is right, to stand firm in your ground. Courage is the key to open up the cognitive gateway into the subconscious. I want to dig deeper on the concept of courage. Think of it like this. You are a warrior and you're fighting this big, scary dragon. Big, scary dragon. It's a pretty scary dragon. It looks like it's gonna mess you up. It's gonna completely destroy you to whatever it does. So what you have to do, warrior, inhale, exhale. Pull the sword and slay that dragon because you are that dragon. You, as the self, are that dragon. When you can look in the mirror and say, I like you, and you're blessed. That is the day when you can be yourself, and you can understand the four sides of the mind and how they work together. That is all I'm going to leave you with. This is MBTI Exposed with an X, working with MBTI Rationals. Hope you enjoy the video.